How do you create stress-free wealth as a real estate agent, even if your income is inconsistent and you are financially disorganized? Welcome back to another episode of All or Nothing in Real Estate. I'm your host, Matt Smith, the founder of All or Nothing in Real Estate. This podcast is a movement to give back to this amazing industry that's given so much to me and my family. And guys, today we have a little bit of a different episode. We're going to solve a problem that most agents have. And we're going to solve it with some tactical, practical advice from someone that has helped transform hundreds of agents' financial freedom in their lives, in their business, their health, their wellness. Transformation is going to be a topic that we discuss a lot today. Specifically, how do you create stress-free wealth as a real estate agent, even if your income is inconsistent and you are financially disorganized? So without further ado, we have our special guest on the episode, Matt Plumer. Welcome to the show, my friend.
What's up? The Matt and Matt Show.
The
Let's
Matt
go.
and Matt Show. Let's rename this thing.
Let's go. Let's do it.
So Matt and I met about 60 days ago at the Cabo event that we were at, that we both spoke at. And Matt shared some amazing things from the stage on financial freedom and things that would really, I think, again, this podcast is, I do this to help agents. And I think Matt and I have shared that in that vision in the heart of we want to help people. And Matt's lane that he is just really, really good at that we'll dive into today is financial transformation and probably just transformation in general. And so, Matt, let's just dive in, man. So let's start with a question that's top of my mind. What is the biggest struggle helping these real estate agents achieve financial freedom, financial transformation? What is the biggest struggle that you have seen that most agents struggle with?
Yeah. So, I go back to that very first commission check that I earned back in 2017, and it was around $10,000. And we had just paid off all of our debt, right? We had gone through our own financial transformation, paid off 500 and eliminated $551,000 of debt.
Wow.
And so we got to a place where we had no debt and no money. Yay, bottom zero, or right, we were at ground zero, right? And so I went through and I had conversations with real estate agents in my market center that I was in back in Washington, D.C., Reston, Virginia. And I was asking them, what would you do with this money? Because this is the first check I've ever had. And what I heard was shocking, but I didn't hear go invest in real estate and invest in the market, or save for college, or save for this, right? Or save for a trip. I heard pay last year's taxes and next month's car note. And so that sent me on a journey to have thousands of conversations with agents over the next half decade that helped uncover the two things that bring the most stress and anxiety for real estate agents is inconsistent income and financial disorganization. And so if we can help agents solve those two things, then so much of the stress and anxiety goes down that allows them to create the space to go actually save for the future, or go sell real estate today to actually one day exit the transaction treadmill.
Dude, that's so good. And it's so true, right? Like I learned the hard way, like a lot of real estate agents do. Just full transparency on my stories. I paid more money in taxes my first full year in real estate than I'd ever made in my entire life. Right? Like there's financial bruises and bumps and things you learn along that journey that I wish I would have connected with you back then so that I wouldn't have to learn the hard way. And even the things that I've learned through experience, there's things just in our couple conversations we've had that you've already educated me on to take it to a whole nother level. And so I think this is going to solve a problem for a lot of agents right now, because let's what did you say that the two things are? Inconsistent income and financial disorganization, right? Every single real estate agent has inconsistent income. Every single
one. We all have that 0 month.
That's right. And in addition to that, we also, as real estate agents, if you're a successful one, most of us are very disorganized, and we're the visionary, we're the go-getters, we're the drivers. We don't necessarily have all of our ducks in a row, so to speak. And so I think those two things are a very common problem. And I love that that's kind of your focus to help people change and transform. Speaking of transformation, we talked a little bit before the show, before we started, and that was really a buzzword for you. Transformation. And that's something I talk to people about, whether it's on my team, people on this podcast, people at events that I speak at, is transformation is huge. And people discount that word so much. Transformation isn't a change. Transformation is way more than that. And so when we were talking about transformation, you've transformed your health and fitness, lost over 100 pounds. You transform your financial situation in your life. You transform to relocating into a new spot and starting over again. And so, Matt, talk to us a little bit about what transformation means to you, maybe your story, the things that you've transformed, and then how that relates to the financial space that you're in now.
Yeah, transformation in all of those things, right? The health, physical, financial, emotional, relational, spiritual, location, all of those, I believe, have the same framework that you go through. Now, some are a little bit longer, a little bit different, but 12 years ago, I found myself on the couch, the marriage counselor's couch, the couch, like that might be the most uncomfortable couch, right? A friend of mine says the biggest room on the planet is the room for improvement.
Yep.
Well, the most uncomfortable couch on the planet is the counselor's couch, right? And I found myself there, 300 pounds, alcoholic, addictive sports gambler, smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day, with my wife on the other end crying because I thought it was all her fault. And so I had that, the counselor just asked me one very specific question. He said, Matt, I've known you for 35 minutes. And we've gone down the road, and I've had you sitting on my couch for 30 years. I'm going to ask you one question. Can you go 90 days without a drink? We weren't there for my drinking. We were there for behavior, but I knew that behavior was, right, this is not necessarily a knowledge problem. It's a behavior problem. We all know what to do. We just don't do it, right? And so I was asked, and I said, I don't know, Mike, but I think at the end of the day, if I kept doing, or if I did what you said in 90 days, she will still be the same person. And at that moment, I had the light bulb went off that I was looking external, not internal. And so I said, I'm going to go on this journey. And I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to stop the stuff, but I knew I could affect what I put into my mouth, because I am the king of losing 10 pounds and gaining 20. Because I'd done that. My yo-yo dieting turned into my yo-yo lifestyle. And so as I was going through this, I was starting to see some wins on the scale: 293, 289, 287, 286, 270. I'm in the 270s. I remember that moment, right? And so all it was just awareness. And I believe that is the very first step in any transformation, is just an accumulation of the facts, which is the truth today, is awareness. And awareness is transformational in itself, and it will do 50% of the heavy lifting. And so if we just sat down, I have 300 pounds, I drink too much, I smoke too much, I gamble too much, like this is how much money I have, and this is how many closings I have, and this is how many the pipelines and the dates, and we're at that moment of awareness, we now can relieve ourselves of all that stress that we carry around, that it's just an accumulation of all the decisions we've made. And so if we want to transform and lose weight, or pay off debt, or quit drinking, it's just small little changes along the way. And it took me a few weeks to lose the weight, and I gained enough courage to actually want to stop drinking. And so, but I never showed up to that coach's office, right? I'm a coach, you're a coach. I never showed up to his office 7 days sober. It would always be 3 days, and then I would drink. And then I would go 2 days and I drink. And I would never show up until I made a decision to stop drink. And on May 19, I was done pissing away days of sobriety. And I haven't had a drink since May 19, 2012.
Good for you, man.
And I showed up 5 days sober. And then I showed up 12 days sober. And then I showed up 19 days sober. And then I was like, wait a minute, I've lost 20 pounds. I'm 3 weeks sober. What the hell am I betting on all of these games for that I don't know who the teams are? And so on June 2nd, 2012, I placed my last bet, loser, on the San Antonio Spurs. Damn you, Tim Duncan, you didn't cover. And so that all just kept compounding over and over and over. And we found ourselves on the couch again, $550,000 in debt. And we just started the snowball process again, small changes over and over. And that last step of transformation is intentionality.
Mm.
What is the thing that you can do intentionally every day to move the ball down the field? See, we can't start sobriety or lose 100 pounds or pay off $500,000 worth of debt and thinking we can lose 100 pounds. But can we lose 10 pounds 10 times? Can we lose a pound Monday to Monday? Right? Can we stay sober today? Can we just not drink today? And then eventually it'll just compound over and over and over. And like, hey, how are we going to pay off how are we going to we owe the IRS 100 grand and we owe American Express 25,000. And, I've got commissions coming out and I've done the e-commission and the commission advancement. And like, how do we do it? And it's one step at a time. It's just today we move a little bit of the money that comes in and we put it in a account and we call it profit. Or we just stay sober today, or we go get 10,000 steps today. It's not 10,000 steps for a year. I did not start 8 months ago and say, hey, I'm going to have 10,000 steps for a year. But I just 10,000 steps every day. And you add it up and it's 240 consecutive days. And so like all of this stuff is awareness, decision, intentionality, and just doing it every day.
Dude, that's so good. That's so good. There's so much there I want to unpack. And as I'm unpacking this, if you're listening to this, we're going to go super tactical on the finance stuff, but I got to stay here. If you know me, I got to go deeper on this stuff because I love that story, man. And so I've wrote a couple notes here, and I think the one that stood out the most to me of those 3 steps was decisions. Here's what I believe. Every single person listening to this, including you and I, have a decision we know we need to make that we're scared to make. And here's something I want to remind everyone of, and myself: not making that decision is still a decision. And so sometimes those decisions are tough. But it's so important. Anytime that you make one of those decisions in your life, you never regret it in the long run, right? It may suck temporarily. It may hurt. It may be one of those things that's really, really hard to do, but you're just delaying the inevitable. And whatever that decision is for you, I want to encourage you to make that decision, because I promise you, on the other end of that one decision that you know you need to make is the life that you desire, or at least one step closer to it. And I think, like, as an example, so I didn't necessarily have a problem with drinking, but it did not align with my goals. It did not align with the best version of self. It was not who I wanted to be as a leader, as a father. And so August will be 2 or 3. I just stopped counting. But it's been 2 or 3, 2.5 years since I've had a drink. And it's the clarity that I gained in my life and the leadership knowledge I've been able to improve. It's like my coach, my good friend and my mentor, John Cheplack, says, we all have that one thing in life that if we just change that one thing, the only thing that would change is everything. And for me, that was that first lever. It sounds like you had a very good similar experience. And I think too, as I'm unpacking all this stuff, man, it was a really, really good story. But I think you had the tough conversation with yourself. And I think so many people are, in today's society, just normal to play the victim. Well, it's not fair. It was easier for him than me. You don't understand my situation. And the crazy thing is, one of my core principles is accept responsibility. And I believe that I'm responsible for everything that is or is not in my life. And as soon as you live life through that lens, what is crazy is sometimes it sucks to have that honest conversation with yourself. But if you are the problem, that also means that you are the solution. And so remove the golden handcuffs from yourself and realize that there is some part that you played in whatever it is that is your story right now, but that also gives you the power to change it. And then I think also just win the day today. Whether you're in real estate and you're like, how do I get more sales? How do I lose weight? How do I get financially free? How do I pay my bills? How do I get out of debt? Whatever it is that thing that you're trying to accomplish, too many people overestimate what they can do today and they underestimate what they can do in a year.
Mhm.
And so I think because of that, that causes procrastination. That causes another thing, which is overwhelm. And I have to lose 100 pounds. And it's just this big monstrosity of a goal. And then we get overwhelmed because that's just too big. What if you cut that into bite-sized pieces? Like you said, I loved it. Can you lose 10 pounds 10 times? Everyone has lost 10 pounds before. Everyone can. If you just do it 10 times over and over and over, and then it's 100 pounds. But it doesn't become too much for you to accomplish. And I also think I've had an interesting perspective on the overestimate today. Too many people say that, well, I can do that tomorrow. You know what? I don't need to do that today. I can make it up tomorrow. And so I have a quote. I literally have this in my bedroom. It's remember tomorrow. When I wake up tomorrow morning, am I going to be proud of the person I was yesterday? Or am I going to be pissed off at myself because I have to make up for that lazy son of a bitch that didn't do what he said he was supposed to do yesterday? And he's got to do it today. Because then it just compounds and it gets all of these things that we have to do. And it just becomes, again, overwhelm. And when we're a human being, we're in overwhelm. No matter what you're trying to accomplish, you always freeze, right? You can't take action when you're in overwhelm. And so break it down in bite-sized pieces and realize that it's these small steps in the right direction consistently compounded over time, no matter what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And I have so many, I believe our core principles are going to align way more than we disagree. But I believe it can be summed up in two very short sentences. Consistency compounds and discipline bleeds. Never in my life did I think that losing weight would lead to uncovering how much weight I had in debt. But it did. But the consistency of me losing weight, and you mentioned everybody can lose 10 pounds 10 times. Well, everybody can pay off, the debt, right? You can pay off $1,000 a month. But what happens is people break that chain of consistency, right? I believe calories and money are no different, right? The only way you can lose weight is people are like, hey, I can burn more calories than I consume. Well, on a spreadsheet, yes. But what did you just say? I'm going to go outrun my calories.
Yep.
Rather than consume less than you burn. So can you ever sell enough real estate to out-earn your spending? No. You can't sell enough. There aren't enough houses in the Lake of the Ozarks to sell if you've got a spending problem, right? There's not enough houses. You can't sell
broke. So many people are broker at a higher level. They play the
broker at a higher level, right?
They play the keeping up with the Jones game and all of that, dude. Yeah, you're speaking my language.
And so when consistency compounds, the reason why I lost 100 pounds, people are like, obviously, when you lose 100 pounds, and I was in the health and fitness space. I was with a network marketing company that was promoting people to lose weight. And so that's one of the things, story for another time, of how I got started, because I created this much space. When you're an alcoholic and gambler and overweight, and you go on a journey for 90 days to lose weight and not drink and not gamble, you have created so much space in your time or in your day. I was bored from 4 to 11. I mean, there was nothing to do. What do I do? Right. And I didn't have any money, so I couldn't go play golf. So I was bored and broke. And so when you start doing this and people are like, how did you lose weight? And I'm like, you don't want to know. I drank 2 meal replacement shakes a day instead of going through the drive-through, and got off the couch and walked around the block. But I did it every day for a year. That's all I did. That was the only thing I did. That led to different workouts, that led to meal prepping, that led to eating differently and not relying on shakes, but like eating differently. So discipline bled into the next thing of, what do I eat? What are the types of workouts I need to do? Right? What is the next thing? And so when consistency compounds and discipline bleeds, like all of that led to Jesus. I didn't know, I knew he was there, but I didn't know why and how and all of this stuff. And so as I start unpacking this, I'm like, oh, and then I break out this book and I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Right. And I get the big one for the effect. Right. But I mean, so when you go through all of this stuff and you unpack it in business and relationships, and if you're in that moment, in that season where you're just like, I don't have any time, I'm always underwater, I can ever catch up. Well, unfortunately, I'm going to break the news to you. You never will. You'll never catch up because there's too much stuff in your calendar, in your bank statement, there's too many relationships, or there's too much things that we have to subtract if we want to multiply.
Dude, so good. And that carries over to not just finances, right? I coach people, I coach my team, I've got some, ballers on my team. I coach some of the top teams across the country. I've been so blessed to speak on some of the biggest stages in the space. And like I tell everyone, like too many people overcomplicate success. Success is way more about subtraction than addition. Too many people are asking the wrong question. How can I do more? And in reality, what you need to do is you need to do less and do more of the things that are working, right? And I think that's relatable to fitness, to health, to finances. Quit trying to overcomplicate it. Like it reminds me of a story through my journey. I found a financial guy that helped me with some investments, retirement accounts, those sorts of things. And I had a conversation with him, and he taught me a really valuable lesson. And this was probably 5, 6 years ago. I said, man, this seems to be working, like it's good. I said, but what's next? What do we do next? And he said, that's a really good question. And he said, but is what we're doing working? I said, yeah, man, it's working great. He said, then shouldn't we just do more of that? I'm like, I guess we should. Why are we overcomplicating? Let's do more of the things that work. Right. And I think that it was just an aha moment for me, because I'm like, what's the next magic bullet? What's the next secret investment? And it's, let's just do what we know works, and it's proven. Right.
Yeah. It's, there are so many people that are so wise, and just, the simple solves the complex.
Yep.
Right. I think actually John, I've heard John say that.
100%.
And so if I look back at losing weight and sobriety and not gambling, and my relationship and marriage with Melinda, and my relationship and walk in my spiritual life with Jesus, and our move from Washington, D.C., Reston, Virginia to Las Vegas, man, it's just math. It's just math. And I went from a decade ago, never in my life, Matt, did I even think the 35-year-old version, or the 33-year-old version of Matt Plumer would live in $1 million house in the suburbs of Las Vegas, playing, hundreds of rounds of golf a year, leading people on a financial journey because of X, Y, and Z, or helping them, inspiring them to lose weight. Like that wasn't even part of the plan.
Yep.
A decade plus ago. And so as you keep climbing these mountains, right, there's that image on, like, you can't see the top of the stairs, but you can see the next step, right? We've talked a lot about that today. Yep. And so I wrote an ebook called The 5 Financial Mistakes That Real Estate Agents Make. And this is after interviewing thousands of agents, right? And the number one mistake that I believe agents make is they don't know when they're going to stop selling real estate.
Yeah.
Like, if you're listening to this, raise your hand if you signed up to join real estate and sell real estate for the rest of your life for eternity. Both hands are still on the wheel, I guarantee you. Yep. Right? Nobody wants to take a listing at 75. Nobody signed up for that, right? And so my question is, if that's the number one mistake that agents make, because if you are where you are today and you haven't gone through that moment of awareness, But yet you don't know when you're ready to step off that transaction treadmill. Are you ever going to step off the treadmill? You just keep there running in place over and over and over and never moving and trying to outrun your calories, right?
Yep.
And earn your spending. You're just going to sit there over and over and over.
Can we stay right there really quick on the transaction treadmill? That's a phrase that is used a lot in our space, but I want to unpack that a little bit. What is a treadmill? You are running your butt off on a treadmill, right? You are working to death, but where are you going? You are getting absolutely nowhere.
Oh.
And I think that we just get stuck in that. Now, treadmill, let's call it a hamster wheel. What is a hamster wheel, right? You're just running like crazy. And again, you're not moving anywhere. And so if you want to actually get progress and you want to take that next step toward whatever you're trying to accomplish in life, you've got to get out of the hamster wheel and off the treadmill. And I think what Matt is saying here is he's got a proven plan that you can follow to get out of that hamster wheel.
Yes. And so I always use the Orange Theory fitness. Have you ever been to Orange Theory? Okay. Well, it's a treadmill, right? And they have 12 of them, and you go from the treadmill to the rower to the floor, right? And it's a circuit. Well, at Orange Theory, you never see this in a traditional gym because people are just, they're on their run. They're just, they're doing the incline or they're on a run and they're running for like 30 minutes on a treadmill, right? Well, in Orange Theory, you don't run for 30 minutes. You run for 15 seconds or 30 seconds, right? And then you cool down and then you do it again, right? You do that for 10, 12, 15 minutes. Well, the majority of the way that people get off the treadmill at Orange Theory is they run 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds, and then they jump the rails. And so literally what they're doing is they're running 8 miles an hour in this direction and stopping in 1 second. And their brain goes forward and their head goes backwards and it like jolts. Like, dude, it hurts to get off of the treadmill that you're running. And so what my encouragement is in all of this is not like, hey, how am I going to jump off the treadmill? Is how am I going to exit? How am I going to go from 75 miles an hour around the 215 beltway or up and down the 1 or around 95 or whatever it is? And how am I just going to slow down, put the turn signal on, exit the freeway, pull off into the resort and go enjoy life, right? And so the number one mistake is not knowing when you're done doing that and how you're going to do it. So my encouragement to you is write down awareness. Where are you today? Just an accumulation of all the facts. No shame, no blame, no guilt, just the facts. The facts are truth and the truth will set you free. Then go out to what is your throw your phone in the ocean moment. What is that day where you can just take this thing, toss it in the ocean because you truly don't need this thing to make another dollar the rest of your life? When is that? What has to happen? What has to be true? And what do you want? When do you want it? What is it? What is your odds? Mine is I love the idea of traveling. I hate the process of traveling. It's terrible.
Agreed.
I mean, all the way from today to the time that you get to the resort is just brutal.
Yep.
The booking, the traveling, the coordinating, the this. And I'm like, what if I create a world to where the jet's on the runway? I show up with this and a backpack, with a book and a journal. I land. My clothes are waiting on me. My golf clubs are waiting on me. My buddies are on their way. And on the way home, I hand a duffel bag full of golf shirts, clothes, and workout gear to a homeless family or a family in need on the way to the airport. And I get back on the plane and I come home. That's not as far away as people think.
I love it.
When people don't think far enough down the line of time, you're never going to get there. You're always going to have to be packing over and over and over and over and over. Pack, unpack, pack, unpack, pack, unpack. Like, how much time do we waste packing and unpacking when we travel? Like, hours in a trip or hours of a day.
Yep.
And it never fits back in the suitcase the way that it was on your bed in Las Vegas, ever. Right? And so write down what it is that you want. When do you want it? What's that number? When are you taking your last listing that you have to take? Now, that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that it's, I'm never going to sell real estate again. But it's like, I'm good. I'm playing golf. I'm on the boat. I'm with the grandkids. When is your throw the phone in the lake moment?
That's so good.
And when you get that clarity, so many of the other things start to happen. Like, I need let's say $3 million. I don't know what it is. Let's just say it's $3 million, right? You need $3 million or $2 million or that much in real estate or that much in a fund to start paying for the things because you're no longer creating income for yourself. Or you need 60 agents or 100 agents, right? Whatever it is. Then you're like, okay, well, I need this. Well, now the other mistakes start to unpack themselves. What if I need to save $2,000 a month? How am I make sure that I spend less than I make?
Yep.
So I can take that delta and go invest it in an index fund so that X amount of time from now, it's $2 million. That's the thing where you were talking about if you're a financial guy, like, let's just keep doing the thing that works, right? What happens if we didn't have any debt or obligations? Like, I want you to imagine your life without any payments. And all of your greatest wealth building tool is your income. Imagine if it didn't have to go towards obligations and it can go all towards opportunities.
Man, that's so good. I want to unpack that a little bit with a personal story. It just takes me back. At this time, I'm probably 21, 22 years old. I'm working full time at a family sawmill, making $26,000 a year, working with great people, but I'm the highest paid employee there, right? And so it's people that just got out of prison and they can't get a job anywhere else, and so that's my surroundings. And I remember at the time I'm living in a single wide trailer, and my roommate, because I couldn't afford it myself, was my beer drinking buddy at the time, and he came home with a brand new truck. And I said, "Man, what are you doing, you idiot? You can't afford that." I said, "What is your payment?" And he told me like $550. Like, we're paying $300 a month for this trailer. You know what I mean? Like, and now he's got a brand new truck. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, you're always going to have a truck payment." And at that moment, I'm like, I don't think that way. Because my vehicle was paid off at that time. I didn't have, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how I've always lived. I've just been financially smart, just how I was raised from growing up. And I had a really important conversation with him at that time. It didn't register, unfortunately, but it was just like, I didn't realize that other people thought that way. Right. And so it was just really eye-opening for me of like, what is your version today, if you're listening to this, of, well, I'll always have a truck payment. I'll always have this. I'll always have that. Is that the truth, or is that your truth? Because you get to decide. And I think it's so important that we realize there is a world of possibilities out there for you and for people that choose to take advantage of it. And so it's so important that you really unpack that for yourself of what Matt's saying here.
Spot on, man. And so like when you make that decision, it's like, hey, I want to pay off debt, or I want to get a hold of my finances. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to shift from using a credit card to a debit card.
Yep.
I'm going to use a little bit of this stuff with, this funny feeling paper with dead presidents on it. I'm going to actually use this rather than a piece of plastic or a piece of metal or a watch. Like, dude, you don't even have to have anything on you. Like,
yep.
There can be an American Express with $50,000 limit on your watch, right? And all you have to do is just show up to the register.
Yep.
Like, you don't even need a wallet anymore, right? And so, but when we do that, we've taken the emotion and the feeling and the using of our knowledge, right? This is where we know what to do. This is the behavior switch, and say, I'm going to change the way that we do X, Y, or Z. I'm going to change the way that we buy groceries. I'm going to change the way that I pay for an event, right? I'm just going to change the way. And so when we start to do that, we make that decision, and we get intentional with it. Now, when $10,000 comes into our bank account from a closing, we can start uncovering and unpacking the third mistake, which is not understanding the path of money. Right? Because there were so many things, rose to the top when I was having all these conversations with real estate agents, is that real estate agents don't make as much as they think. Happens on every single coaching call when I'm walking an agent through the very first time we do their budget. I'm like, hey, Matt, what are your closings this month? And they're like, hey, I have 3. And you're like, okay, great. What's one? It's like, what's the address? 123 Main Street. What's the amount? I think it's $10,000. Like, think it's $10,000 or is it $10,000? I think it's 10 grand. Well, then when we look at it, I'm like, okay, we're just going to stop right now, pull up your CDA, pull up a calculator, and let's walk through it. Sales price, commission. Oh, this one's got a referral on it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not capped at my brokerage. And now it's $7,400. Or it's $5,300, right? Whatever it is, it's irrelevant. So agents don't make as much as they think. We all spend more than we care to admit, which causes us to be behind on taxes and/or retirement. And so when we look at this and say, now we have new rules of engagement, is that, hey, when 10 grand comes in, that's the amount that ends up hitting our check or our bank account. What happens to the 10 grand before we spend it? What happens to the 10 grand before it even hits the bank account? And so this is helping us look further down the line of time.
I think
right?
I want to unpack that really quick. So I do this with my team. And I've done this with myself. And I do this for money, but I also do it with time because I think too many people don't budget their time, right? Like budget isn't a cuss word, right? You say budget to someone and they start cringing like, but all a budget is telling your money what to do before you make it.
Yep.
That's having a plan for your money. Isn't 100. That a smart thing to do? Right. And so I think what I would like for you to unpack, if you're willing to kind of share, is like, I know it's kind of like a blanket statement, but the average real estate agent, that $10,000 check, how much money should they allocate and where should they allocate it?
Yeah. So this is all from the book Profit First.
Yep.
I've raised my hand and I've gone through the education. I've gone through like the Profit First certified professional. Like this is Profit First 101. Okay. So we literally look at $10,000 and we start to assign jobs and assign roles to that. Who needs to get paid? Well, the owner needs to get paid. Okay. Who did the work? The person that sold the deal needs to get paid. Who else needs to get paid out of that $10,000? Oh, the government needs its money, and then the business needs money. So if we just look at that and just as a blanket statement say, hey, we're going to take a little bit off the top, but we're going to pay ourselves 40 to 60 cents of every dollar, because if we were a W-2 employee making $100,000 a year, it wouldn't be $100,000 that hits our bank account. It would be like 65, because payroll takes out all of the stuff, right? Well, in real estate, you don't have that. And so instead of treating yourself like an individual contributor, we're treating ourselves like a business owner. 10 grand comes in, and let's say you pay yourself 50 cents of every dollar. So 5 grand would come home. And then you and your family have $5,000 to live on, to budget, to plan for the next however many days. You're like, that's not enough. Well, we need to sell 2. Well, that's not enough. Well, we need to sell 3. Okay, that's enough. Now we go back to what is our Oz. Yeah. And we're like, oh, hey, I can live on 10 and save and give 10%, live on 50%, go invest 20 or 30%, right? Now you can get into some ratios. And now the plan, this is one of the number one questions I get. How is working with you going to help me make more money? Because we're going to organize your money. And it will show that you need to go sell more real estate. It's not me, it's the money, right?
So I want to hit on that because I was curious your opinion on that. I thought maybe we would see this from a different perspective, because I'm a real estate coach. I grow real estate teams, right? Like that's what I do. And so one of the mistakes that I see, so there's 2 mistakes, right? I see agents and team leaders and just not having a budget, not having a control or a pulse on their expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So that 100% is factual, true. You should get those under control, understand the ROI, understand why you're spending that money. And absolutely you should. But I think step two, which you just kind of alluded to, is you can't save your way to wealth.
No.
You can't, right? You cannot save your way to becoming whatever this throw your phone in the ocean moment is. You have to do a combination of getting your expenses under control and how do I increase my earning potential as I do that?
Yeah. And because most people look at a profit and loss statement and they go straight to the bottom line, and it's like, hey, I made 500 grand and there's $200,000 of net income. Yay me. I asked two questions. Where's the 200 grand? And where's the 50 grand you owe on the 200 grand? And I get this.
Yep.
And so we have to flip the script of sales minus expenses equals profit to sales minus profit equal expenses, and force our business to work on not $10,000.
Dude, say that again. Say that. That's so good. Say that again.
We have to force our business to work on what's left, not off the top. Because ultimately, if we run our business on $10,000 and we pay admin and transaction management and marketing and hires and blah, 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 blah off the 10 grand, is there ever any money left for you? Just like if you fill up your calendar over and over and over and over, is there ever any time? And so what we have to do is we have to flip it, pay yourself and force our business to work on a quarter of the revenue.
So the equation that you said, man, this was a light bulb for me. So I think there's other people too. Most people run their business sales minus expenses equals profit. What I heard you say was you should run it sales minus profit equals your expenses.
Yes. I didn't go back far enough. Sorry, I didn't hit the rewind.
No, so yeah, but that's a light bulb moment for me. And I think a lot of people, I think it's business owners, and by the way, there's a lot of team leaders that listen to this show, but even if you're a single agent, you still are a business owner. You are a 1099 independent contractor. So stop treating yourself like, well, this doesn't apply to me because I'm an agent on a team, or I'm doing this. You are a business owner. You're a business of you incorporated.
Hey, every agent that's on a team, right? And I'm going to spend 90 seconds talking to team agents right now, where they think they have a $10,000 commission and then half goes to them and half goes to the team leader and they have $5 grand.
Yep.
That is your business's revenue. That is not your money. You have to you have to do what we just talked about first, because you still have to go to events. You still have to file your taxes. You still might want to hire your own VA. You still might want to hire your own coach. So yeah, you might get a larger percentage because you don't have as many of those ongoing expenses because of the 50% that went out that the team leader bears. You still have business expenses. And that's one of the biggest challenges that team agents have, is they don't treat their business like a business.
Absolutely.
And so when that $5 grand comes in or your split comes in, it's like, hey, I'm going to pay myself 50 or 60%. You might not have to worry about like the profit in all of the accounts, but hey, I'm going to bring home $3 grand, 1,000's going to taxes, and 1,000's going to go to my investment in myself.
Man, I love that. Coach me on something, because here's what I've coached some of my agents to do, and I'm curious your opinion. And so many agents forget, like, oh crap, I got to pay taxes, right? Like it's a surprise. And so we just make that a rigorous part of our onboarding to make sure they understand that, and we remind them ever so often. But I recommend to them in that class that what I recommend you do is I give them baseline of incomes based upon the IRS guidelines and what is your goal, how much money you're going to make. And what I recommend, the first thing that you do, so you don't have to be like, oh crap, how do I have tax money? Nobody wants to, IRS is going to get their money, right? So let's figure out what that percentage is and let's put that in an account that does not exist until our quarterlies are due when we pay it. And so like, that's one of the things that I encourage people to take off the top so it doesn't get forgotten about. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. And so, again, whether it's off the top or it's second, I don't know if it necessarily matters, right? But if you just look at, hey,
before you spend it, put it in an account.
What are the blanket percentages? 50% home, 25% to the government, 25% to your business expenses. That not enough, go sell more real estate.
Yep.
It's just math. I had a conversation with one of my coaching clients, and we went through his bank account. And I wrote down all of the things. I was just writing questions. I mean, I was just writing, this, 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 this. And I asked him about every single one. Do you use it? What is it? Does it serve you? Is that okay? And he was like, no, man. I was like, did I tell you how to spend any of your money? And he was like, nope. And I said, did I just help you become aware of the money you were already spending? And so when you go through this and you go into that awareness and you have the path of money, and you have the plan. This is my rock bottom. This is my throw the phone in the ocean moment. This is what I want. This is my odds. And you do a plan, you do a cash flow management plan with your spouse.
Yep.
Or your partner or coach, and say, hey, these are the decisions we're going to start making so that we can turn this ship. Because the hardest part, the biggest amount of momentum that you have to create when one thing is going in a direction, it's going in the wrong direction, is enough momentum to slow that rock down to start going the other way.
100%.
And so when you have that, and it takes a little bit of time, and then you figure out, like, okay, now I need to pay myself $8,000 or $10,000 a month to live and pay off debt and to go get that Oz. And now that's 50% of the amount of top line revenue that I actually create. Now I need 20 grand of GCI after cap, after fees, after referrals. Now you can actually start to have a plan of how many houses you have to go sell, how many conversations, appointments, etc. This is how it all works, gang. And then you get to mistake 4 and 5, which is number 4 is we don't have money set aside for the things that are going to come up, like a pandemic, like 8% interest rates, like a lawsuit, like an accident, a car wreck, a flat tire, whatever it is. Yep. And so we have to take some of that money that comes in and we have to plan it for the future.
Dude, it's so good. Like, I remember back in the day when I was working on my financial stuff, I followed Dave Ramsey stuff. And I think there's some of those things that are solid. As I've grown and progressed, I don't align 100%, but I think as a principle, it makes sense, right? Don't spend more than you make, right? Like, and so one of the things that he taught was an emergency fund, right? And so I think that it's so important. Like, how many agents? So I think the average American lives paycheck to paycheck. I don't remember the percentages, but it is as abnormally high, lives paycheck to paycheck. Real estate agents are worse. We live commission to commission, right? And like, what happens if you get this mutual release? What happens if you get this mutual release and we just had a tornado come through our area? What if you have to temporarily pay while you're waiting on insurance? You got to fix your house, or what do you do? Right? Like, you have to have that money. And in case of emergency, where do I go?
Yeah. And for a lot of people, especially people that run in my world, right? My organization, my coaching business, the wealth department, that I am that in case of emergency break glass, but I can't be there 24/7, right? So there needs to be a stack of $100 bills somewhere that just is insurance to get from A to B. And yep. Some people that's 10 grand. Some people it's 100. Some people it's $1 million. That's just sitting somewhere for disaster to strike, because it's going to happen, or if they need it, right?
My recommendation, if you're like, well, how much money is that? I would start with 3 to 6 months of expenses.
Start with 3 to 6 months, right? And about the only thing that I will have any shift in Ramsey's baby steps, because I'm pretty hardcore baby steps, right? I mean, it's the number one way people can get from A to B financially, is for real estate agents and entrepreneurs with that inconsistent income or that commission income that's 100%, is to get some money set aside before we start going off and paying off debt. Because the number one way to get out of debt is stop borrowing money, is stop going into debt.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we have to go create that money. And I talk about that inside of the ebook that I'd love to give to your listeners. As a free download. It's 5financialmistakes.com.
Say that again. Where do they find that?
It's at the website, www.5financialmistakes.com. The number 5financialmistakes.com. It's
Cool.
the easiest way to download. It's a 25, 30-minute read. It's very short, very brief, but it will help you start this awareness, decision, intentionality moment. And then, quite frankly, DMs and follow on Instagram is easily the best place to strike up a conversation.
Where do they find you on Instagram?
Coach Matt Plumer, at Coach Matt Plumer on Instagram.
And Plumber with one M and no B.
One M, no B.
Love it. Dude, this has been super helpful. There's stuff that I learned, and just full transparency with the audience here is, I'm an open book. Matt blew me away so much in our conversation. I heard him speak. Like, this is just a something that is so needed for our industry. And so much so that I asked him to be on this show to share it with you, but also he's zooming into my team to help my team go through this, right? Like, and so I highly encourage you to reach out to Matt, download that free ebook. Whether you are willing to admit it or not, we all could use some help with our finances, getting them organized, the inconsistent income, and all the things that Matt provides. So, Matt, thank you so much for your time, man. It's been super insightful. I appreciate it so much.
Awesome, man. It's been great, and obviously, I'm thoroughly and equally excited to continue our conversations and relationship in years to come.
I love it, man. We got a couple minutes left. Drop some fire on the people. What do you want to leave everyone with?
When we go through this awareness moment and you're ready to go through any type of transformation, know that it's okay to be where you are. It's just not okay to stay there. Ooh. Every day, take a step, one by one. If it's money, save $1. If it's sobriety, just don't drink for the next 3 hours. If it's time, shut off your phone for 5 minutes and just breathe. Don't do anything except breathe. And remember, you're only one budget away, and it's just Matt.
I love it, man. I love it. Dude, just take that next step. It reminds me of a book that I read. I can't remember the title. It's like The Boy, the Fox, the Horse, something, and a bunch of animals. Mm-hmm. But the story that sticks out to me is that there's a boy that's talking to a horse, and they're stuck in this big, dense forest. And in this story, the horse talks. And so the boy says, we're stuck. We're never going to make it. And he's just like defeated. And the horse says, well, I can't see my way out of the forest. And the horse says, well, can you see your next step? And the boy says, yeah. So the horse says, well, then just take that. And sometimes we don't need to get out of the forest. We just need to take that next step. And I think if you just take that next step towards everything that Matt shared, whatever it is in your life, the transformations that he shared, hopefully you guys got value from this episode today and will help you transform in the areas of life that are important to you. And thank you guys so much for listening. As always, Matt, thank you so much for your contributions, my friend. I appreciate it. Guys, we'll catch you next time.
See you guys.